Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to cut through all that noise, the information overload, and really bring you the most vital nuggets of insight from your research. Our goal, as always, is simple: get you up to speed, fast, with those surprising takeaways that might genuinely shift how you see things. Today, we're diving into something absolutely essential if you want to truly understand digital products. It's feature usage metrics. Ever launched a feature, maybe with high hopes, only to see it just kind of sit there, or poured resources into something you thought users wanted, but, well, they just didn't use it. Yeah, we've all been there. So today, we're unlocking the secret weapon against those kinds of product disappointments. Think of this as your X-ray vision, really, into the heart of user behavior. It's a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed about, honestly, a crucial part of product success.
Exactly. And when we talk about a feature usage metric, it's not just about general engagement, like how many people logged in today. No, it's about getting much more granular. We're drilling down into how users interact with specific features. So, how often are they actually using it? What's the context when they do use it? How deep does that interaction go? And critically, what's the connection, if any, between using that feature and the product's overall goals or conversions?
Okay, let's unpack this then. It sounds like a lot of detail, maybe even overwhelming detail. Why are these metrics so important? What's the real payoff for diving this deep when you're looking at how a product performs?
Oh, the payoff is significant. It really is. Because understanding this stuff can profoundly enhance a product's success. And it helps you avoid exactly those pitfalls you just mentioned. For starters, it dramatically improves product market fit. It sounds obvious, but it's easy to just assume every new feature is a winner, right? But the surprising truth, and we see this a lot, is that without these metrics, product teams are often just, well, building in the dark. I mean, we've seen cases where a feature took months to develop, huge effort, and it was used by less than like 5% of the user base. That's a clear product market fit miss. And these metrics, they're your early warning system.
That makes total sense. Avoiding building things nobody uses is key. But what about situations where maybe a feature is needed, but it's underused because it's just poorly designed or hard to find? How do these metrics help you tell the difference?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And that leads right into the next benefit, driving adoption. If a key feature isn't getting used, these metrics can immediately flag potential issues, like maybe it's poor discoverability, users just can't find the thing. Or it could be problems with the onboarding. Maybe the documentation isn't clear. Or sometimes it reveals the feature isn't solving the real user problem, even if you thought it would. Then, beyond adoption, it also increases retention. This is a big one. We consistently see a strong correlation. Highly used features often mean highly retained users. So tracking this helps you reinforce what's genuinely working well and, double down on those successes. And there's more. Feature usage data enables smarter prioritization. This is huge for resource allocation. Instead of relying on, let's say, gut feelings or loud opinions about what users might want, you can make truly data-driven decisions. You know where to invest your team's precious time and resources. And finally, it absolutely optimizes conversion.
If a feature is meant to contribute to a business outcome, lead gen, sales, whatever measuring its usage helps you understand its impact and then scale it effectively. It's not just about what's being used. Sometimes it's even more revealing to see what's not being used, especially if you invested heavily in it. That's where you often uncover those silent failures before they become massive resource drains.
Okay, that really breaks down the why, the motivation for digging in. But when we actually dive into the data, what are the core pieces, the specific ingredients of these metrics we should be looking for?
Right, the building blocks. There are about 5 core ingredients, if you like. First up is frequency. Now, frequency might sound straightforward, just how often someone interacts. But the real insight isn't just the raw count. It's comparing that frequency against what you expect the usage to be, or maybe comparing it across different user segments. That's where the power is. Second is recency. When did the user last interact with the feature? A long gap could signal a drop in its relevance for them, or maybe even that they've churned.
Got it. So it's not just how many clicks, but how many clicks recently and who exactly is clicking. Makes sense.
Precisely. The third element is depth of use. This goes way beyond a simple click. If a feature has, say, multiple tabs or some sub-functions, are users exploring all of them? Or are they just sticking to that one main thing? Are they really engaging with its full capability? Fourth, we look at engagement patterns. Are features typically used in a logical sequence, like part of a clear workflow? Or are they more often used as sort of isolated one-off events?
When you mentioned engagement patterns, my mind immediately went to how, well, chaotic user behavior can sometimes seem. Are we really looking for perfect linear paths here? Or is it more about identifying those key aha moments, even if they pop up in unexpected ways, maybe not part of some textbook workflow?
It's definitely the latter. Yeah, we're not always looking for those perfect textbook paths because, let's face it, user behavior is often messy. But identifying those key aha moments, or maybe spotting those unexpected sequences, or even just recognizing that, hey, this feature is mostly used completely on its own that can provide really critical insight. And finally, the fifth element is conversion impact. This is when using a feature ties directly or even indirectly to achieving a business goal. For instance, if you see that users who use your Compare Plans feature are much more likely to upgrade later, well, that feature has high conversion impact. It's connecting the dots right to the bottom line.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly powerful, but I wonder, is there a risk of maybe getting too obsessed with feature usage, micromanaging every single click, and maybe losing sight of the bigger picture, the overall user experience or the strategic vision? And just practically, how do you actually measure all this stuff? Where do you even begin trying to collect this kind of data?
That's a really valid concern, and it's exactly why having good practices is so crucial, which we should definitely talk about. But just in terms of getting started with measurement itself, it kind of boils down to 5 main steps. First, and this is foundational, you got to define the feature clearly. You need to decide precisely what counts as using the feature. Is it just opening it, clicking a specific button, or maybe completing a whole action flow? Without that clarity up front, your data is just going to be muddy. It won't be reliable. Then step 2, you need to instrument the feature. This means using analytics tools, things like Mixpanel, Amplitude, Heap are common ones, or maybe dedicated event tracking systems. Think of it like putting tiny little sensors on everything inside your product that you care about. The key is making sure every important interaction point is tagged and actually tracked. From there, it's about choosing the right metrics. Don't just track everything. Be selective. You'll likely want to track things like daily, weekly, or monthly active users of that specific feature. Maybe the time it takes from sign up to their first use of it, or the number of times a user interacts with it in a single session. For multi-step features, completion rates and drop-off rates are critical, and definitely track usage before and after key conversion actions. Next, super important, segment your users. Please don't treat everyone the same. Analyze how different groups engage. Think free versus paid users, new versus returning customers, maybe high-value versus low-value segments. The insights you get from a power user will be totally different from a casual one, right? And finally, visualize and analyze. Raw data is overwhelming. Use dashboards, use reports, look for trends, identify those spikes or drops in usage, and critically look for correlations. Does usage of this feature correlate with better retention or more revenue? That's where data turns into actual actionable insights.
Listening to that, it almost sounds like every click needs to lead to a sale, which feels a bit intense. Surely not every single feature is just a direct conversion button, right? Where's the subtlety there when we talk about connecting feature usage and conversion?
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely more nuanced than that. Not every feature needs to or even should directly drive a conversion. That would be overkill. However, for those features that are intentionally built to move users towards a specific goal, maybe signing up, upgrading, making a purchase, tracking their impact on those business outcomes becomes absolutely essential. Think about a book a demo button on a B2B website. Its usage is pretty directly tied to getting a new sales lead right, or maybe features like refer a friend or download PDF report. They might indirectly lead to conversions later by increasing overall engagement or brand reach or demonstrating value. The goal here isn't to force everything into a sales funnel, but to track how many users engage with that specific feature and then went on to complete the desired outcome, whatever that might be. Filling out a form, upgrading their plan, contacting sales, you name it. It's about understanding which features are the key accelerants on the path to value for the user and for the business.
Gotcha. So it's really about understanding the user journey and how different features play different roles, some major, some minor, along that path. So if we connect this all back to the bigger picture, what are the best practices? How do you actually get the most out of these metrics without, like you said, falling into that trap of just overanalyzing everything?
That's a great question, and it circles back to your earlier concern about getting lost in the weeds. There are maybe 5 key best practices I'd highlight. First, track early and often. Don't wait. As soon as a feature goes live, start tracking its usage. The earlier you get that baseline data, the more comprehensive your insights into usage patterns will be over time. Second, and this is absolutely crucial, tie usage to outcomes. Don't just look at usage stats in a vacuum. You need to understand how engagement with a feature actually affects the bigger picture. Things like user retention, overall satisfaction scores, your core business goals. It can't just be about usage for usage's sake.
Yes, this is so crucial. Don't just chase those click counts. A million clicks on a Learn More button might look great on a chart, but if none of those users ever convert or stick around, it's just a vanity metric, right? What's the point of high usage if it's not driving actual business value or user success?
Precisely. You nailed it. And that leads directly into the third best practice. Go beyond vanity metrics. Simple click counts, like you said, just don't tell the full story. Always try to pair frequency of use with more meaningful outcomes. Things like task completion rates, user satisfaction feedback related to the feature, or even calculating some kind of ROI. Fourth, combine quantitative with qualitative data. The numbers, the metrics, they tell you what happened, but they rarely tell you why. So you need to layer in qualitative methods, things like user interviews, feedback forms, maybe watching session recordings. That qualitative piece is essential to understand the why behind the user behavior you're seeing in the data. And finally, number 5, benchmark your features. You need context. Establish what healthy or good usage actually looks like for each specific feature. Maybe you can find industry standards, or maybe you need to set internal benchmarks based on your own goals and past performance. This helps you know if your numbers are actually good, bad, or just average. Helps prioritize.
Okay, that makes a lot of practical sense. Let's try and bring this all to life now. Can you walk us through a really concrete, real-world example, something we can easily picture?
Absolutely. Let's take a pretty common feature you see in SaaS tools, the export report to PDF function.
Okay, yeah, familiar with that.
Right, so why would a product team even track that? Well, because it often helps their clients share important insights internally or with their own customers. It might be crucial for their job role, especially if they need to present findings to stakeholders. So what would you actually measure? Well, you track how often this export feature gets used, obviously, but also who is using it. Is it primarily managers doing the exporting, or maybe analysts? Does usage differ by role? You'd also want to look at what actions tend to follow an export. Are users then maybe sharing that PDF via email integration? Or does exporting often precede setting up a meeting in their calendar based on the report data? What's the context? And crucially, you'd analyze. Are the users who frequently use this export feature more likely to stick around? Are they more likely to upgrade to a higher tier or renew their subscription? The insights you can gain from just this one feature can be really telling. You might discover that, say, 7% of all your PDF exports happen on Mondays.
Huh. Like clockwork.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Suggesting a specific behavioral pattern, right? Probably linked to weekly reporting cycles or maybe client check-ins first thing in the week. That's a fascinating little behavioral pattern right there. Or maybe you find that users who export reports more often are actually, let's say, 3 times more likely to convert to a paid plan down the line. Now, that clearly indicates that this export report to PDF feature, which seems pretty simple on the surface, is actually a significant value driver for your product. It's like a quiet hero feature. And knowing that means you might want to invest more in making it easier to find, or maybe even build more functionality around reporting based on that insight. So yeah, just to summarize it all, feature usage metrics give you this really precise, very granular view into user behavior. They're not just about seeing what is being used, but really understanding the how, the why, and ultimately to what effect. And this depth of understanding is what empowers product teams to really fine-tune those user experiences, boost satisfaction, and ultimately drive growth with real data-driven confidence, not just guesswork.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Next time you're interacting with a new app or some piece of software, you might find yourself thinking not just about what you're doing, but maybe about why the product team behind it might be tracking your specific engagement with certain features and what your usage might mean for their next decisions. It truly changes how you see the digital world around you, doesn't it? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.